Ready?
Ready.
3, 2, 1.
This is The Jungle, an up-close, unvarnished look inside leadership and business strategy. We wade into the real-world leader's face and explore what they do to create a path forward, because that's what business is. Wild, exciting.
It's The Jungle.
Derek, welcome back to The Jungle, buddy.
Good to be back again.
How's your home office arrangement working? Have you gotten any new technology, new desk arrangements now that you get to work from home full time?
I haven't got any totally new desk arrangements yet. Want to. Saw some really cool stuff coming out from some companies. It'd be cool to get some stuff, but I like going into the office. I'm one of those people. So hopefully this is temporary, but I'm trying to stand as much as I can. So I got a standing desk and that's about it. How about you?
You can't throw the back. You can't throw the back out, right? You got to make.
Can't throw the back out. Can't throw the back out. No, I sit too long. Back goes out. Bad things for Derek. How about you, Doug? You're in your living room. Is that your living room I'm looking at?
We're in the living room. Educate the children somehow in the background. I don't know when that happens. Sometime during the day. But my wife took my monitor and my webcam. What's up with that? So I actually got on Amazon looking for a new monitor. Turns out the delivery date was like June 1st. You can't get a monitor and you can't get a webcam right now. They're sold out.
Sold out. Yeah, I saw that earlier. When I was first setting up. I had to actually call IT to get one.
I mean, I'm just glad that my wife's all dialed in, but I'm not dialed. But, got to make sure the wife's happy, right?
Correct.
Boom.
Always. That's total wellness. Which is a good total whole wellness.
That's a good segue.
Good segue. Tell us about our guest here, Doug. Who are we talking?
Right. So we're talking to today Todd Sanford, who's the CEO and president of Sanford Financial Services. So they offer a full range of financial services and really look at the whole person, the holistic approach. Todd's an amazing guy. He's won a bunch of awards, really been recognized as a real leader, a real advisor. And so we had a great conversation, really focusing on the personal finance side of this crisis and how his firm is leading through that. Why don't you give me your takeaways there, Derek?
I can do that, Doug. So again, great person. You see from his perspective how he approaches things. So my three are almost a pathway to how he went at this. And it speaks to how he handles his customers, his clients, and looks like how he runs his company. So he went safety first. This is a human problem. We have to deal with safety and those issues first. Then he went to his employee well-being to make sure all his employees were well and safe and could work. And then he went to the financial stability and security. So this one's a little bit different. And that was the approach he took. And he had some great lessons on that financial stability, security, what it means individually and organizationally, and his perspectives on things like debt and how we approach things and how we spend as consumers and in our society. So really insightful podcast. And it's just how he approaches things as a company. It really came through.
So the points that I had to take away. So the first one was back to this idea around this crisis really showcasing a real problem in society, which is financial planning. Most people don't have enough cash to get through a situation. And part of that is driven by not really planning out one's financials. And so we need to do more literacy there. Todd is an amazing donor to the Hayworth College of Business, the Sanford Center, which focuses on financial wellness. And so I thought focusing on him thinking about social impact was really an important part of this equation as a leader during crisis. Second point I had was, again, thinking about employees first. He took a pay cut, and some of the senior leadership took a pay cut to make sure that everyone's going to get through that with no pay cut. That takes someone with good character to do something like that. Final one was the 3 Ps of how he thinks about operating through this situation. So remain positive. He gives off that vibe. We won't give away who his spirit animal is now, but it's fitting, I would say, for this positive approach. Second one is perspective and really being able to approach this with some equanimity and a good frame of mind. Final one is perseverance. Got to keep the head down. Got to keep going. So it was a great conversation, great Bronco. And so we hope everyone enjoys the conversation with Todd Sanford. The Jungle is produced by the Center for Principled Leadership and Business Strategy in Western Michigan University's Hayworth College of Business. Our center supports the leadership and business strategy major, conducts large-scale consulting projects, and trains professionals in acquiring and operating small businesses. To learn more, visit wmich.edu/leadership center. Todd Sanford, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for allowing me to be here. And
cheers to you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To you.
You have some hot tea there. Is that what you're drinking?
That is correct.
Beautiful.
On a cold Friday afternoon in April.
It is one of those days, right? It is
snowing. I can't believe that.
Do you have any new routine? Where are you talking to us from here today, Todd?
From my home in Kalamazoo.
And do you have any new routines that you are embarking on during this wonderful quarantine?
I am indeed.
What are you doing?
I'm involved now in some yoga with my wife. It's something that I used to do a little bit of, but now it's become a daily routine, and I've enjoyed that.
Nice.
Also, cleaning up the house like most people are doing, and finding some various treasures for our kids and grandchildren someday to as well as relive some memories, which has been fun, looking at pictures in particular from days of yore. And I think also I've kind of went through the bookshelf a bit, and there were a number of books that I received over the years that I just hadn't gotten to, so I'm prioritizing those, and I'm tearing through a few at a time here to enlighten myself and also find a little diversion because we're home and a bit cooped up like everyone at this juncture.
Yeah, I actually uploaded the picture thing. I did that as well. So went back to an old hard drive in my basement and went through the photos back to 2000, got them all in one spot. That was a hoot, going back through some of those pictures. Younger looking then, Derek. I was looking much younger than that. Though Derek turned 40 last year. So, he's an old man now, but.
It's good. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, Todd, really appreciate you joining us, and I think you're going to be able to provide a great perspective, which we haven't had, which is really around the kind of the personal finance element of the whole equation on the pandemic. Why don't you first though kind of walk us into like, what are you thinking and feeling about these days? Like what has this last month been like for you?
Well, I've been down this path before. I'd like to say that this is my fourth tour of duty, if you will, in the last 20 years, from the tech bubble in 2000, the 9/11 crisis, 08, and now the virus. And I've been through several others during my career of nearly 40 years. And there's a lot of similarities to this. I would say that this is a kind of a combination, as I viewed it and shared with clients, of 9/11 and 08 combined. It is obviously being played out somewhat that way too. If you look at what's happened on the economic front, the Federal Reserve has taken actions from Ben Bernanke's playbook, and they have actually exercised that much faster in a matter of days rather than many, many months that it took back in 08 and 09 to execute on those plans. They broadened it, and it certainly has been more significant in scope due to the fact that what's occurred has really reached every person in America and on the globe economically. So this is clearly unprecedented time, but there's a lot of similarities in terms of our reaction. I think the federal government has put into place pretty much everything they need to, short of another round of the PPP program, to provide more money for small business to keep things going in the interim here until we can open up. So now it's up to modern medicine, as I view it, to move us forward, and we're hopeful of the vaccination before too long.
Let's talk a little bit about maybe leadership, and then we'll kind of zoom out a little bit more. Have you found what's top of mind for you as you're thinking about leading your organization through this time?
Well, I think it's all about being calm and being positive, and certainly saying that we've been down this path before. Before we wrapped up and closed down our business, even though we do have access to our building, we're considered essential service because we provide liquidity in the system, not like a bank, but similar in many ways. I got the team around 6 feet apart, of course, at that point. And I said, we're going someplace you've never been before. And I want to tell you, this is going to be scary. It's going to be difficult. And it's unlike anything you've read about, even in your coursework at Western or elsewhere. And so be prepared. And we'll get through it. It's going to take time. But we can do this, and it's going to take everybody's extra effort to coordinate communication, to make sure everybody is taken care of as they need to from a family perspective, and focus on the right things, which is your health and welfare and then our business. But I assured them that they would have their job, that we would make salary cuts at the ownership level, myself and my two partners, and that they will get through this without skipping a beat financially. And that gave them some peace of mind. And we have promised that. We will maintain that promise throughout here.
Do you think, walk us into maybe any of the meeting cadences, the practices, the emails, the communications you're doing to manage and lead through this?
Well, it's been interesting, and this is a good study for maybe the two of you with a finance prof, or maybe I'll help you write the book on this as it relates to behavioral finance. The first 3 weeks of this, I did not get a call. And I think we had 5 calls in office, which is hard to comprehend, considering the end of February, things came unglued very quickly. And we were clearly into almost the middle of March before we had any substantial outreach from clients. And I think what happened this time, which is so very different from 08 and 09, was that people were thinking about their health and welfare and their families and what they needed to do from a safety perspective first. And then after they got settled, then they started looking at their accounts and what was happening in the markets and watching that news on TV. And that brought them to a different place. But I can tell you in 08 and 09, the phones were ringing off the hook from the moment the business opened in the morning. And we were calling clients back until 10 o'clock at night. And we did that for months on end. So this is a completely different environment. And I was pleased to see people had their priorities correct and that they relied on us and showed trust in our organization to get them through.
So I guess with your background and then the type of organization you lead at Sanford Financial Services, some of the things you talked about is holistic financial planning, what that means. What are you advising people right now? Everybody listening, what are some insights that they can take from you that are critical in this time? Because people have health and wellness first, but at some point, financial planning will become critical part of this whole equation if it hasn't already. So what are some of the things that you can tell some of our listeners?
Absolutely. That's a really good question to pose. And I think as I sit here and think about what we did last time and how we're kind of reacting today, the one thing that's been very scary is the statistics that I've seen in terms of people living paycheck to paycheck. That number, as was reported recently by the Wall Street Journal, is 59% of the population, so 6 in 10. That has to cease. And I realize that there are many people that are living on the margin, people that have certain occupations that make it very challenging for them to put money away, or they live in communities that are very expensive. But we have to do a better job as a society. And if that means redistribution of wealth, or if it means that we need to do financial planning at the grassroots level, so be it. So I'm wearing, if I can stand up, and maybe you'll see this is a shameless plug.
There you go.
Sanford Center for Financial Planning and Wellness. So that is part of what I created in the last year and a half to deal with this problem, starting with students who are not getting any experience prior to coming into their collegiate experience. And now that's changing, and it's changing rapidly, but we have to introduce this in the secondary school system and do more than what, say, an organization like Junior Achievement, which does fine work in terms of financial planning at the high school level. But we need to introduce that sooner, and that's what the center is all about, with summer camps, as well as one-on-one counseling that we'll be doing with students. And we'll have personal financial planning students get practice working in a face-to-face environment, doing counseling on top of their academic experience. So when they come out into the field, they will be ready to go. They'll have the full skill sets that are required to be a planner. And we need to do that as a society. And one of the things I hope to do with the center, once we get a little bit further down the path, is to open it up to the community so we can do the same thing for marginalized individuals that are struggling, the working poor, if you will, of Kalamazoo County, to be able to come to the center and get advice with a student and a professional present to get them going down the right path with basic personal financial planning tips. And if we can do that, we're going to change society. And now's the time. And I think if there ever was a reason to have this center and to focus on financial planning, it's today.
I think the multi-million-dollar gift, it was amazing generosity, amazing vision that you had to put that into being. And the 6 and 10 number that's a scary number. And so when you think about advising people who maybe are either, that 6 to 10, or they're in an area where they're actually, can weather this, what is your advice and suggestion on financial planning in this moment right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the answer to that clearly is people need to save more and spend less. And that's not what we're told. We're always hearing from our politicians and leaders that the economy is run by individuals, the service industries, and people spending. The consumer is 70% roughly of our economy today. It's not manufacturing, and that number continues to widen. But there comes a point where enough spending and saving has to take a leadership role. And we were doing a pretty good job before the crisis hit here. The numbers were actually increasing from the 08-09 experience. I think people did step up to the plate a bit and reprioritized and started looking at paying down debt too, which is another thing I would make a suggestion for all young people, regardless of their age even, because sometimes younger individuals are told, well, just go ahead and pay your mortgage on time and don't accelerate payments. And, car payment's going to be, you can't avoid those sorts of things. But I think if you can get to a debt-free situation, like many of our clients are, that they can withstand the storms that are going to occur like this one. And we have had very few clients have any concerns about their personal finance, their portfolio, or meeting their day-to-day needs, because we have positioned them to be somewhat bulletproof. How do we transfer that to the general population is another thing. It's going to be much more difficult as people get started, but they have to begin with a core emergency fund that would last them 2 or 3 months, whether it be for a car that needs some major repair, or if they're a new homeowner and they suddenly need a roof or a furnace. They have to be able to come up with resources, or they shouldn't be in that position. So that's, I guess, kind of the key elements from my perspective that people need to start looking at now much more seriously if they haven't going into this.
So are you seeing, you seem like you got your clients at a good position, but as you talk to other leaders in the community and yourself as a leader, is the decision-making day-to-day with this pandemic? You probably can't with financial planning. Is it hour by hour? Is it month by month? Or are you just getting everybody into this long-term mindset right now, and you and anybody else you're communicating with?
I think it's kind of a combination of both right now. I think the long-term plans still need to be there. If an organization's taken a 30,000-foot view of where they need to be 3 and 5 years from now, I don't think that's changed a whole lot. But from other perspectives, certainly we have to look short-term because of the cash flow needs that a lot of businesses have, and some of the issues that they're facing for sure will require them to do things a little bit differently, most definitely. I was talking to a client recently about this, and he has a small business, and this is from Frozen 2. So if you have young kids, you'll know this.
That's been on my house like nonstop lately, so I'm going to listen to this closely.
All right. Well, I've not seen either one of the movies, but I love the line, and so I replicate it here. Just do the next right thing. And I thought that is an awesome mantra for where we are. I mean, you have to take it somewhat day by day as a small business owner. And I'm in an entrepreneur group of 15 individuals, and we've been walking ourselves through the PPP program and, what's happening with unemployment and being very generous, and some people finding it's not quite as necessary to go back as long as they're getting paid, because the numbers are pretty close. And from a safety standpoint, and in many ways, they feel better at home, and I certainly can understand that perspective. But I do think it is more or less something that businesses are going to have to work with others on, and some collaboration to figure out how to deal with the short-term part of this as a retool. If you're a restaurant, if you're a movie theater, you're going to have to kind of re-engineer your business. But I still think the long-term plan shouldn't be modified a whole lot at this point yet. I could retract that statement in 3 months or so if things look a lot like they do today, but I'm hopeful that we'll be in a better spot.
My favorite line of that movie, Todd, when you watch Frozen 2, I actually we were down in Florida. We saw this at a movie theater. I died laughing. I got a lot of looks from my wife. there's a song, and you know this one, Derek. It will all make sense when I am older. It's like a snowman running around. And they're walking through some woods or something, and it's totally messed up. But they're like, "Oh yeah, it will totally make sense when we get through this whole thing." So when you're thinking about, let's talk about your firm. Are you looking at any one thing that we've had a lot of guests talk about is this balance between the short term liquidity needs, personnel needs, making sure everybody's safe. But then there's sometimes some thought towards what are the next opportunities? How do I, the phrase, never let a good crisis go to waste. How are you thinking about any of those things, and how do you balance the strategic with the triaging in the moment?
Yeah, a couple parts to that question. I like that. First off, I guess I would say that we're not here at this point in time to do any marketing. It's not our goal or objective whatsoever. We're worried about our clients and making sure that they're getting what they need. And I've had a number of calls that have been pretty challenging at times, especially people that are isolated and have been folks in assisted living or nursing. And I have one client who's a recovering substance abuse person who's now been removed from his group that he counted on weekly for, and how difficult that is, even if he could Zoom like we're doing. It's not the same as having personal connections and allowing people to shake hands or hug and those things that are somewhat required. So I think that all of that should be put on the back burner from my perspective. I don't see much opportunity, or should be focused on much opportunity out there, other than what I can say in the last crisis. Was interesting when people did refocus after 08 and 09 on personal planning again, because they were kind of forced to do that. They'd lost money and they started looking at their statements again and refocusing their lives some. We grew fairly significantly, and kind of just by happenstance. We did anything especially attractive other than we communicated well with our clients. And I think we had strong numbers in terms of performance, because we tend to be a bit more conservative shop. And that's by design, because very few of our clients actually have any debt at all. And we have almost 1,000 clients. And I would argue there's probably not more than 50 that have any debt, period. So that allows them some latitude. I think that's one of the keys that we kind of talked about previously in one of your questions, is if you have some maneuverability during difficult times, it certainly makes things easier. But I fully expect we'll have some growth out of this that was unplanned, because again, people will start looking at their personal situation. They will share information with their families, their children, grandchildren about, hey, you need to get started, or here's an opportunity with the markets down as a young person to establish a Roth. You can pay off some debt. You should do that. You should do this or that. So I think that's what I can offer you on that question.
So you made a good point. This is not a time for marketing. It may be a time for innovation when you talk about some of the restaurants or movie theaters. As we go through this, and you say, I'm going to lead through my organization through this crisis in this way. How are you judging your day-to-day performance? And then how do you want to be remembered by your employees and some of your clients on the other side of this when we're hopefully through it sooner rather than later? What are some things that you're really grounding yourself in?
Well, I've got 3 P's I want to share with you, which maybe will be helpful. Positive, always be positive, upbeat. I'm naturally an optimist, and I will always be that way. I think the glass is half full for a reason, and we need to look at life that way. We've been blessed and very fortunate to be where we are, each of us. And if you think otherwise, as I tell clients or even my own children when they were growing up, take 10 minutes and look around you. You will find somebody in a lot worse shape than you are. So if you start from that, I believe you can kind of get yourself through most anything. So positive is number 1. Having perspective is number 2. You need to have perspective about what's happening around you and be open-minded. You may see things a certain way, but you have to really have glasses on that allow you to interpret what other people are seeing as well. So to avoid being quick to make decisions or take an opinion, I think is important. And to frame things properly for employees and clients has been a critical part of what we've tried to do. And I've written a number of client correspondences around that. I've also listened in on some very important calls. I was on a call earlier this week with Ben Bernanke, who was the architect of 08 and 09, and he had some very interesting things to say about what's happening here. But the third P then is perseverance. And I think perseverance is a human trait that some of us believe we have, others have to kind of find it. But when you find it, you can get through times like this, and you need to lean on experience and people with maybe smiles on their moccasins and talk to them about what they've seen and what they've experienced. So this didn't scare me by any stretch of the means. I'm not fearful of the virus and what's happened. I am mindful of what it means to a lot of people, but I can tell you, younger people in particular in our organization, this is kind of the first significant life event that they've had since they were a young adult. So I'm saying this is in the perspective of a 23 to 30-year-old. And the last time we had this economic meltdown, the financial crisis of 08 and 09, they were very young at that point. But now you add a component that is something unlike we have ever seen, which is a healthcare crisis, and they're very worried about their parents and grandparents along with their financial position. So I think it's been very difficult on a younger generation, millennials, let's say, in general, to do coping successfully with this. And so we've tried to, as an organization, reach out to them a little bit more and make sure that they feel like they're in a good position.
Let's. Do you have one more, Derek? I got one more. Then we'll go rapid fire.
You go one more, then go rapid fire. Just
okay.
I want to be careful of everyone's time.
So let's play fortune teller here. So you hear stories about the pandemic is going to revolutionize things, change things. The world is never going to be the same. And you've got some that say, we'll be back to normal, back to business, and things kind of move along their way. What do you see if you had to look out in the future of what's going to be the same and what's going to be the different as a result of the pandemic, either in your industry or in some of their clients' industries?
Well, there's going to be change for sure, guys. Little doubt of that. We were headed down a path and have been the last 4 years in terms of nationalization. And I think that's probably going to continue now. We had a global economy before, and we'll always have one, but it may not be the same. I look at what's happening now in terms of oil reserves, and so oil prices are nearly all-time lows, and so the U.S. government is buying oil from producers here in our country and stockpiling. I think you'll see more of that, and I've heard things about similar approaches being taken in Europe, France in particular, and Germany, looking at this because of the fears of depending on other companies or countries, I should say, probably more so than companies, to fulfill their immediate needs or their ability to continue to build their widget or whatever manufacturer products that they're creating, or whatever their business is, to make sure that they can fulfill and not have these business interruptions like we've had this time around. So I think we'll focus more on that for certain. Beyond that, I believe that we'll probably do more of this distancing for a long time to come. Restaurants will have to retool and have fewer patrons and probably higher costs to go into a nice restaurant. And I fully expect that will transpire in many other industries as well, which will mean that the cost will go up. I fully expect that we'll have a slower growth economy as a result of this on a longer term basis. And we were growing pretty slowly before. So it'll be interesting to see how things proceed from there. And beyond that, I think the consumer will probably end up making some changes in their lifestyle as well. There'll be fewer international trips for a while, maybe for 5 to 10 years before people are willing to take a trip to a place that maybe has had a significant outbreak, like, say, Italy, as an example.
Are you getting, speaking of food, are you getting any good delivery these days? Do you have a shout out to a restaurant you wanna plug?
Absolutely. Organic Gypsy.
Nice.
Food truck is amazing.
Excellent.
Indian butter chicken, guys. Indian butter chicken. You can't miss out on that one.
Indian butter chicken. Boom.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It'll change your life.
All right. I like it. All right. So we've got some rapid fire questions here to conclude. Have you seen, by any chance, Inside the Actor Studio?
No, I have not.
Okay. So it's on an RC channel. They always have some really great questions for guests. Very pointed, short, to the point, one word answers. So we've got a series of those focused on leadership that we'd like to ask you. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right.
Fire away.
Favorite leader?
Oh boy. Abraham Lincoln.
Courage or compassion?
Compassion.
Speed or accuracy?
Accuracy always.
Liking or respect?
Respect.
Great ideas or great execution?
Great ideas.
Word to describe your leadership style?
Fluid and open-minded.
And if you had a spirit animal that really embodied and captured your leadership, what would be your spirit animal, Todd?
Boy, that's a tough one. I'm not sure I've got an answer for that one. A spirit animal. Koala bear.
There you go. Very nice.
A koala bear only because I tend to be a warm, hugging, loving sort of individual, a very right-brained finance guy. And I guess that's my reason for that.
Well, Todd, we really appreciate you taking time. Do you want to stand up and plug your shirt, the center one time? So Todd is the named benefactor of the Center for Financial Planning and Wellness at the Hayworth College of Business, an outstanding center that just launched. A multi-million-dollar gift came from Todd. We absolutely love your vision around the need for this in society and the importance of this for everybody. And I think you're right that this kind of crisis is really going to highlight that for folks. So great Bronco, great community member. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. Thanks so much.